Hey guys, it's Lumen, and today I'm presenting my clear CR1. It's the Gale Cloud title challenge, but in text it's called Celestial Realm of Evanescence, so we're gonna call it CR1. Probably because Gung-Ho is gonna make more dungeons in this technical category. But anyway, CR1, my clear CR1 with New Year Kureha. I mean, I was really excited to do this video. Near Kureha, I was always enamored with her. I thought she was super cool. It was a shame that she is kind of ride or die with the sun. If the sun awakening is present, she is amazing, and if it's not present, she is not amazing. So yeah, without further ado, let's kind of dig into the team, kind of lead, sub, eclipse, all that good stuff, how the team feels, like some problems, some benefits, all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's dig into it. Nura Kureha is the orb generation of the team. She creates, so she's very interesting. She's not a transform, but she's an evolving active skill. It's very similar to transform though, because it's a very high first stage evolve, and then once you get that over that hump, she evolves her active skill, gives you haste, and then her second part of the active skill is like kind of the orb generation, right? Creates 4 fire, light, and heal. Great orb generation. And then the active also has a conditional effect where if Fire Skyfall is present, Nura Kureha uncaps the 50 billion for 1 turn and color voids. So yeah, it voids attribute absorb shields is what I'm trying to say. I just say color void because it's a bit easier to say. So I mean, what a loaded active. It reminds me of Reinhardt in a way. Reinhardt, very similar, you know, you transform, you do your thing, and then once you transform, you know, you create orbs, and then you do your Fujin thing, right? And then you uncap the 50 billion as well. Very similar in that sense. So Nura Kureha, I mean, I wouldn't say it's on the same level, but looks very similar. It gotta be good, right? So Nura Kureha is very interesting in that sense. Now, I mentioned that she's an evolving active still, and she's not a transform. That's a very important detail because with an evolving active skill, you're actually able to use uncapped latents. Transforms are not able to use, well, they can use the latents, but it's not going to do anything, right? Like, you're not going to get the uncapped bonus. So it raises the damage floor if I use uncapped latents on the New Year Kureha because I only use one each, or rather, I use one every, well, okay, how do I put this? I use one every turn, but a specific copy only gets used every other turn, right? So because it only gets used every other turn, that means that it uncaps the 50 billion on one turn, and then it does peanuts the next turn. And then it uncaps the 50 billion, and it does peanuts, right? Now, the big thing is with, for example, a team like Reinhardt, right? You just kind of accept that. You're like, okay, 50 billion one turn, and keep in mind, because it's 3 pings, it can do up to 150 billion, right? So 150 billion one turn, 6 billion the next turn. 150 billion one turn, 6 billion the other turn. And you just kind of accept that, right? But with New Year Kureha, because it's an evolving active skill, you don't actually have to settle for that. You can use uncapped latents to then say, okay, 150 billion this one turn, and then I do 25.5 billion the next turn. And when you work with the other one, it combines to 175 billion, which is maybe not too crazy, but it is a decent increase from, like, let's say Reinhardt, where it does 150 billion on one side, 6 bill on the other. So, you know, 19 billion, it's not nothing, right? So definitely an interesting detail. It's quite nice for sure. Now, the other sparkling and very obvious thing about New Year Kureha is that she has double Yang protection. It's called Yang protection, but I'm just gonna call it like a Sun Awakening, right? The double Sun Awakening is, I don't know. I don't really like the gate design of it, right? Problem is, right, when the Sun Awakening is present on the dungeon, you go crazy, right? Because you gain so many stats. But when it's not Sun, you're just cooked. You can't do anything, right? Because you just lost 4x stats. Like, what are you gonna do, right? Now, I know one of the Sun Awakening is a Super Awakening, but like, because the dungeon is Sun, like, I'm just gonna use it. It's like the best option. So yeah, so New Year Kureha, very interesting in that sense. As a lead, it's very simple, to be honest. 82% damage reduction, add 3 combos, 12 million auto full when you use TPA. The only interesting thing here is that she has a 200x attack multiplier, which is really, really good. but it's not triggered when you match a TPA, it's triggered when you match 2 fire combos. Now the awkward part about that is that, guess what? New Year Kureha doesn't generate enough fire orbs to match 2 fire combos. So unfortunately you have to fit in a supplementary orb gen to fix that issue. It's a little bit frustrating for sure, but it's just how she was designed. And honestly, it's not too much of a problem, but it is slightly interesting, I guess, right? So yeah, there you go. That's New Year Kureha. Now, as you notice, I didn't pair New Year Kureha with herself. I paired it with Stark in this case. Why did I not pair them together, right? Why did I not, use the same identical lead? Most of the time, it's the best option, right? Because, you have the same exact leader skills, so then the activation requirements are super simple, right? You only have to match one, and then the other one just falls in line. The reason why I didn't do that is because New Year Kureha has some flaws, right? One of the flaws is that New Year Kureha, oh god, I'm gonna get tired of saying that. New Year Kureha, she doesn't have any recovery. Problem with that is that CR1 has a super altitude of 1/16 recovery. So unless you figure something out, you are just not gonna heal. And if you don't heal, you're gonna die. That's just how it works, right? So for that reason, I didn't self-pair because New Year Kureha doesn't have recovery built in. Instead, I paired with Stark, who has a very similar leader skill, but also has a 2x recovery multiplier to kind of alleviate that recovery issue a little bit, right? Stark also has a bunch of great things. 150x attack, a bit lower, sure, but totally fine. 82% damage reduction is totally fine. Plus 4 combos, definitely nice. It's more than Kureha, plus 3, so plus 4 is super nice as well. All 1 TPA use, and then the big thing with Stark, maybe not the biggest thing, the big thing is the recovery, but a small, nice detail is that he has an autofill of 30 million when matching 2 fire combos. Now, because this is similar to New Year Kureha's 2 fire combo requirement for 200x attack, not an issue, right? The 30 million autofill is a very nice touch, because it allows you to deal with a question mark super resolve of 25 million. Now, with 2 New Year Kureha, you only do 24. So then you hit if you hit the question mark super resolve to resolve, you're not going to kill it with the Fua. Instead, you're going to leave it at 1 million HP and then trigger all these nasty effects that you don't want to trigger, right? With Stark, you just one-shot it, right? Because now you do 42 million Fua damage, and that just cleans out the 25 million of the question mark super resolve. So definitely very nice for sure. A lot of good touches with Stark, and it's just a really nice fitting leader skill. You don't sacrifice too much of anything, and you gain a lot of benefit in return. So, just a very nice touch here. Now, if it was like a different dungeon, like let's say, GA5 or something where there's not as heavy super altitude, then you don't need to worry about it, right? It's like, oh, super altitude of like 1/4. That's totally doable. It's just that this dungeon has such severe super resolve that it's like you kind of just have to figure any way to get recovery, and Stark is just a great way to do so without changing too much. Now, Stark as a lead is really nice fit here, but as a sub, he's even more phenomenal. I mean, holy cow. Stark's active is completely loaded. It has a double shield break. It has a big shield, it has a Woken Bind recovery, and it has an uncapped to 65 billion for 1 turn. I mean, holy cow, like, just the amount of damage alone is crazy, but then all these other effects are just incredibly valuable on a 5-turn cooldown to boot. Stark is just out of this world. He is super, super amazing. He has a ton of stats as a sub too. He has all stat plus. He has double part break, and one thing nice about him as a leader is that he also has a part break multiplier in his leader skill, which I wouldn't really farm parts with this leader, but if you wanted to, like, it works great, all I can say. So yeah, Stark helps alleviate that part break issue as well, so he's really, really nice in that sense. As for the other subs, 2 of them are kind of just there for the utility, right? They're just kind of like automatic fits. New Year Aura Meredith is the Fire Skyfall buffer for the team. As you remember, New Year Kureha has a conditional effect based on Fire Skyfall, and New Year Aura Meredith kind of just makes sure that Skyfall buff is up at all times. Now, New Year Aura Meredith, the duo, is not just here for that. It also provides a Fujin on a a looping Fujin. It's a 4-turn Fujin on a 4-turn cooldown. So loops the Fujin, loops the Fire Skyfall buff too. It also loops 2 times move time buff, which is like whatever. It's nice to have, don't get me wrong, but it's whatever, right? A move time buff. And it also loops a spinner for 4 turns as well. And the big thing about that is that, remember what I said about New Year Kureha not making enough orbs for her own leader skill? Kind of awkward. But the big thing about that is that New Year Aura Meredith is designed to kind of fill it in a little indirectly, right? Not only do you have the spinner, which you can kind of just spin out extra fire orbs as needed, but the other thing is that you also get a Fire Skyfall buff too, and the expectation, you know, I say that with quotation marks, expectation is that you Skyfall enough fire orbs to, you know, consistently, again, with quotation marks, consistently get the fire orbs that you need to trigger the active skill in its entirety. Of course, is it going to happen always? No, sadly not. But, you know, that's kind of the way it was designed. It's kind of one of the flaws of the team, but you just kind of live with it because what can you do, right? Just blame Gung-Ho at this point. So the other sub here is New Year Shiva. New Year Shiva is just a perfect fit as the Void Pierce sub, right? He provides a Pierce damage Void Shield kind of active effect. It's a VDP basically, but as an active. And he does it on a loop, 6-turn VDP, 6-turn cooldown. He also has a big shield, and he also uncaps himself to 24 billion for 6 turns. It loops that effect as well. So the big thing about New Year Shiva that's super fantastic is he provides like some additional damage on this team that doesn't really have damage, I guess. I don't even know how to put that, but like the thing is, the team's damage is kind of reliant on uncaps, right? New Year Kureha's 50 billion uncap, but otherwise, like, there's no team-wide uncap for the team. So New Year Shiva is super valuable in that it provides an additional source of damage, or additional source of significant damage outside of, you know, New Year Kureha. So it raises the damage for the team a bit. Very, very nice. The shield is also incredibly valuable as well. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't know what to say. The shield is crazy because now you have two 75% damage reduction shields on the same team. Like, now New Year Shiva, you can't really pop it whenever you like. You kind of want to use the active as soon as it's up because you want the uncap and you want the VDP effect, but it's really nice to have, and it is used for certain purposes, which I'll talk about later when I discuss where actives need to be used and stuff like that. Now, the last sub here, and the most interesting sub by far, is Heart's Archangel, I believe from Pad Island. Now, Archangel is super interesting in a lot of ways, mainly because, I don't even know how to put it. Archangel, incredibly valuable for this team, even though she doesn't provide any top tier utility. The things that she does is fantastic. Her active gives an attack and recovery buff based on the number of healer types on the team, and it scales by 30% per healer type, right? Then her active also creates a full board of fire, wood, light, and heal, and then it breaks a shield. Now, I'll be honest, the shield break is like whatever. Stark is the better shield breaker because it breaks 2 shields, and he's used more for that purpose. Archangel, not much so, right? Archangel, though, what's crazy about her is that the board is like the full board is just already phenomenal, because the full board allows you to deal with like full heart boards, for example. And you know what's interesting about the team is that you don't necessarily need Archangel to deal with some of the full heart boards. For example, because you have the spinner, if you look at the leader skills, their shields are all based on matching a TPA. So technically speaking, with the spinner and a full heart board, you kind of just wait 1 second for the heart to turn into red, and then you spin it out, and then make another red and spin it out, and make another red and spin it out. And then what you get is 4 reds, you match a TPA, and all of a sudden you have both your 82% shields. It's like totally fine, right? But you know, the board is great insurance, and I learned this because when I died to Rihanna and Sylvie, it's because Rihanna and Sylvie spam spinners like every turn as a move. And that's super frustrating because Aura and Meredith, like, they're on a loop, right? So they can't exactly put the spinner back up right away. If I use it, then I gotta wait for the cooldown to come back up. And in that time, if I trigger the super resolve and get a full heal board, I just die because I don't have a board replacement Well, Archangel is there to kind of fix that issue. So full board, super nice for sure. You can also use it on Fama, I believe, as well. Fama does the exact same thing, so that's really nice as well. Now, the big thing is, besides the full board, which is already fantastic, the great part about Archangel is the attack and the recovery buff. Now, the recovery buff is nice because this team, as I said, needs recovery. Like, it doesn't recover, what can I say? Like, you need recovery. The other part is the attack buff. Now, the attack buff is interesting because this team already does a ton of damage, but the attack buff is necessary because of Beitul. Now, Beitul, as an enemy, he kind of debuffs your attack twice. It debuffs your individual attack of all team members, and then he debuffs team-wide attack. And they're both pretty severe debuffs. So if you don't deal with either of them, your team does no damage. And the problem is Beitul kind of leaves you with these debuffs for 4 turns. He goes on a 4-turn cooldown, and then if you don't kill him by then, he just straight up executes you. It's not even like shieldable or anything, you just straight up die, right? So, yeah, bit of an issue. So Archangel fixes this problem by removing one of the attack debuffs. Now this team has enough damage where you can deal with just one attack debuff on its own. It's just when you deal with Beitul's double stack debuff, it just you just can't. No team can really do damage. Maybe Freerun, but like, yeah, no team really does damage in that scenario. So yeah, the other big problem is that if you haven't noticed, this team is primarily fire based, and Beitul is a water attribute enemy spawn. So you automatically lose 50% of your damage fighting that enemy. Hooray. So yeah, for those reasons, Archangel really fixes that problem there. I mean, God, without Archangel, it's just doomed. Originally, instead of Archangel, I was going to use Ordeal, Ame no Uzume. Does a lot of the similar stuff. It has like heal TPAs, Ls, it has a nice active, it's like a cleric active, it's a whatever, but then it has a 4x RCV looping buff, which is super fantastic, helps with the recovery a lot. But then you get to Beitul and you have just no way to deal with the guy. It's just cooked. So for that reason, I decided to use Archangel and it worked out nicely. So yeah. As for the equips are, again, incredibly interesting in a lot of ways. If you notice, I use a lot of vanishing equips, and the specific vanishing equips I use work out so incredibly well in a lot of ways. The first one I want to talk about is the round 1 Gene Tonic equip on Archangel. Archangel, I mean, that round 1 Gene Tonic equip is just absolutely amazing. I used it to win fastest title in the Sun title challenge, and I've used it in a bunch of different teams. Like, it is just absolutely broken. It was, yes, a very expensive equip, but it has been worth the price. If you don't know, the round 1 Gene Tonic equip, it's a vanishing equip that grants 2 Ls, right? L plus, but 2 Ls, double part break, and I believe it gives like attacker and devil type add or something like that. But it also does a 2-turn haste, and the important thing is that it's on a 3-turn cooldown. So even on a transform like Archangel, if you have enough haste, you can transform Archangel and then re-haste it back up very quickly. In fact, in this dungeon, I transform Archangel, I haste Archangel's base active, I use the base active, and then I re-haste Archangel again, and then charge the Inherit in time to, like, you know, do all the things that I need to do. So, I mean, definitely just a phenomenal equip in that sense. Yeah. As for the other equips, Stark has the New Year Metatron equip. That equip is also incredibly good. New Year Metatron has God type add, it has Rainbow Orb Enhance, it has Levitate. Stark actually needs all 3 of those. Stark doesn't have Levitate, so giving him Levitate increases his damage by 20x. Really good. Rainbow Orb Enhance is probably the most valuable awakening game right now, because guess what? This dungeon has a lot of negative Orb Enhance. So does Sun Title Challenge as well. It's just so much negative Orb Enhance, and you can use actives like just increase Enhanced Orb Skyfall to deal with that. It just overwrites it completely. But a lot of the teams don't have the luxury of including such an active. So what I do instead is, for most of my teams, or rather, I say I, but like, you know, everybody, most people, you run Orb Enhance to kind of counteract, because the way it works is that if you have negative Orb Enhance Skyfall, it kind of clashes with the current Orb Enhance Skyfall that you have for positive OE. So then, you know, if you calculate the percentages and stuff, they just kind of work out like math does. I don't know. Let me just put it this way. If you have, let's say 60%, and this is actually an example from this team. If you have 60% Orb Enhance, which is what this team has. If you have 60% Orb Enhance Skyfall for all the colors, and the enemy spawns a 70% negative Orb Enhance for all colors, then they combine so that you only actually have negative, or not even negative, 10% negative OE, because the 70% gets reduced by the 60% positive OE that you already have. So there you go. Math, I don't know, I can't do math, like whatever. If you didn't get it, that's okay. Just ask someone else, I guess, right? Anyway, really valuable awakening to have Rainbow Orb Enhance, so that's also super valuable. And then the God type ad, funnily enough, is also super valuable because Stark on this team is the only team member without God type, and because everyone else is God type, I use the God type badge for this team. And so making Stark God type means that he benefits from the 5% attack, or sorry, 5% HP, 5% recovery, and 5x attack. So yeah, super nice in that sense. As for the other equips, I use the same Vanishing equip on New Year Shiva and New Year Aura Meredith. I use the Sensei equip from Freerun. When it vanishes, it grants Physical type ad, Healer type ad, 3 team HP, and an SDR. I mean, that equip is just crazy because it grants 3 team HP, and then the equip vanishes. So when you get Assist Voided, like, you know, in most endgame dungeons, you don't lose your team HP, so your HP actually doesn't drop like a rock. Now your HP like stays like sane, I guess. You don't like die instantly. So yeah, definitely very nice in that sense. So the team HPs are great, the STR is very nice, and then the other thing about Sensei equip that's extremely amazing is that it grants a healer type. Do you remember Archangel's active? It grants attack buff and recovery buff based on the number of healers on your team. Well, guess what? There are no healers on this team besides Archangel. So if it was that way, then I would only be getting 1.3x attack and 1.3x recovery, which is just, it's just not good, right? But now that I use Sensei's equip, guess what? I now have 2 more healers. I have 3 healers now. So it goes from 1.3 to 1.9x attack and recovery. And while 1.9x attack is like whatever, 1.9x recovery is super useful because I need healing in this dungeon. Like I'm like dying, man. Like there's just 116 super altitude is nothing to scoff at. Like it is a huge problem in this dungeon, and Archangel helps remedy that issue. So yeah, really nice touch from Sensei's equip. Now the last 2 equips on Kureha, they're like kind of the flex equips because all the other ones are like very specific, very incredibly broken vanishing equips. So the equips on New Year Kureha are like kind of the flex ones. The first one I use is Digimon Emperor's equip. That one has an SB, full blind resist, which I really don't want to deal with blinds. So full blind resist it is, and actually a full set of OE plus, right? So it's 40% Orb Enhance across all colors except heal, but Archangel has heal TPA, so it's totally fine, or heal OE, I guess. So again, as I mentioned before, but negative OE is a huge problem in this dungeon, so I need the Digimon Emperor's equip to kind of remedy that issue. Not really remedy, but it's more like mitigate the issue, right? I don't completely remedy the problem, but I do deal with it decently. The other equip on the other New Year Kureha is, oh, it's a Bright Phenom's ring. It's 4 team recovery awakenings, and then SP plus and a healer type, right? I already mentioned why healer type add is like super valuable, so yeah, there you go. The whole purpose of that equip is to make sure I can recover, right? Again, 116 super altitude, healing is an issue, so I use 3 separate sources of recovery buffs to like fix the issue. I use Stark's leader skill to add 2x recovery, I use Archangel's buff to add 2.2x recovery, and then I use this equip to add 1.8x recovery. Yeah, it's a lot of buffs, but it works out. And then not only that, but I also use heal TPAs on Archangel to then kind of make sure I can recover sufficiently in this dungeon to survive and not die. So there you go, that's the team. Now, some benefits to the team. The biggest one is that because this is a Sun dungeon, and this team has a ton of Sun Awakenings, New Year Kureha and New Year Aura Meredith have 2 each, right? So that's 6 Sun Awakenings. New Year Shiva has 1, but then because I use his Self-Reliance, it's like even more tank stats than Double Sun. Archangel has 1, and then Stark is the only one that doesn't. poor Stark, right? I mean, the stats just balloon. The crazy part about this team, you have so much HP, and you have so much damage too. Like, the Sun Awakens do so much damage, it's completely crazy. Even when you get debuffed, like, by, like, let's say, Deforward, they call him Deforward, I call him Defouled, whatever, right? Even if you get debuffed by Deforward, oh my god, you can still cap. It's just Beitul that's the problem, but that guy, he makes every team, like, fall to its knees, so I don't even think that's much of an issue. So, like, you just have so much damage and so much health. That's the big thing. And, I mean, to be honest, I say there's a lot of damage, but, like, the damage is limited. Honestly, it's kneecapped by the uncaps. If the team could uncap more, like, let's say Kureha could uncap to, like, 60 billion, it would hit 60 billion. It just does that much damage. So, yeah, Kureha, definitely a beast in terms of just the raw stat department. Unfortunately, there are some issues, right? The first thing is that despite how much damage the team does, you are kind of a fire team trying to hit into water enemies a lot of the time. That's pretty painful, I'm gonna be real honest with you. That sucks a lot. So you don't really do that much damage in that department. The team is extremely inflexible. Like, the subs are pretty locked in, the equips are pretty locked in. So yeah, I mean, you probably don't need the Sensei equips, but, like, man, they work out so nicely. Like, it's like, oh god, I would imagine not using them, to be honest. And this team does have a lot of management issues, if I had to say. For example, like, when I play the team, you have to manage, like, a bunch of things. You have to manage your shields, you have to manage your red Skyfall buff, you have to manage your Archangel active, right? Because obviously you need to use it all the time, but then there are some points where you can't use it because you need to use the attack buff, or you need to use the full board for a certain part of the dungeon or for a certain enemy spawn. And, you know, managing all that is, like, kind of frustrating in a lot of ways. So I think that's one of the bigger issues with the team, is that there's definitely a lot of management with it. It's also really annoying that you're forced to play with a spinner, because your active doesn't make enough orbs. Like, hello? Like, what is the point of that, right? So, yeah, I don't know. It's just frustrating all around in that sense. Like, again, it has a lot of benefits, but just the design of it and the gameplay, it's, like, a bit frustrating for sure. So, yeah. You have to, and the thing is, like, I talk about the management, like, you have to use the shields a lot. Like, for example, yes, you use the shields on all, like, the enrages and stuff, but then, like, you'd have to use shields in certain places. For example, Beitul is just the war spawn, right? But Beitul also does a half max HP, like, debuff. And the thing is, even if you try to run out the buff, because this team doesn't override it at all, when you kill the spawn, Beitul, even when the buff expires, your recovery occurs before the buff sorry, I keep saying the buff. The debuff, right? So the max HP debuff, that expires after your recovery has been calculated. So even if you would recover to full, guess what? Instead of recovering to full, you're stuck at half HP because the debuff didn't disappear until after you've recovered your health, right? So when you go into the next floor, you get hit by a preempt that pretty much kills you. And I hate dying. So guess what? You have to manage your shield to use it there. In this case, I used New Year Shiva's shield because that was the one I decided to use. What can I say? But, like, it's just annoying to manage all that. So yeah, for that reason, I mean, I like the team a lot. I was really enamored in the design and everything, but it definitely has some issues in that regard. But otherwise, it was enjoyable to play. I mean, TPA's cool. Whatever, right? So yeah. With that, that's my New Year Kureha team. I mean, if you have any questions or comments or whatever, just feel free to let me know. I mean, I had a lot of fun, as always, and yeah, I don't think anyone is gonna actually play this team, but if you do, I hope this gives you some inspiration as to how to tackle with the latest and greatest title challenge. With that, I'll call it here. As always, thanks for watching, and good luck and have fun.